You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis. And hello to Tasha while we're on here.
Really? I swear to God, the studio. It's become unhinged. It's become unhinged.
So who are you and why are we here?
Did you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Rona. I said I'm Rona Lewis.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. I got distracted again. Easy.
Squirrel. Anyway, this is Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people who make it happen. And we're a little wonky this morning.
Oh,
so
my
Jeffrey,
God.
what do we? This is something that you wanted to talk about.
Well, originally, I mean, we've covered storytelling in the past, and
We're talking about storytelling, and yes, we've
talked about it multiple times.
A lot.
Now, it was in the earlier versions, which are not on YouTube or Spotify in video, because originally I just posted the audio, even though we shot the video. So I've got to go back through and do all the videos. So we don't have any videos of the storytelling online.
But
anyway,
since it's storytelling, it's important to listen because that's what storytelling is.
Exactly. And
Although,
I'm listening really well.
Right? No, yeah.
Do what I do, not what I say.
And not necessarily, because movie making is storytelling also, and TVs and things like that. So
Right.
Not to diss anyone who's in the visual medium. Anyway,
Right,
we
right,
digress.
right.
So we're,
Oh, wait, I said that backwards. I said,
talking
do what I
about-
do, not as what I say.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So
Right.
we're talking about moral framing in the sense of storytelling.
In the sense of storytelling.
Ready? Go. So,
Did you
and we're not even having alcohol, which is what's scary.
did you say morons framing?
Moron
No, moral.
framing. And here we go.
Moral,
Wait, here we go.
moral framing. So a moral framing is when you take a subject and it becomes very value centric.
Right.
And what you do, and this guy,
3 parts.
This guy had it on
Instagram.
a post of Instagram. It was a post, and he was talking about it, and he said his summary of it.
Mm-hmm.
God, I wish I could remember his name. Anyway, kudos to you, whoever you are. He said if you adopt a belief and then you signal it publicly, and then you align with the tribe of other people that believe the same way, that's how you create moral framing. And then one of the problems of moral framing is you can no longer have an intellectual discussion, because
Right.
it becomes a discussion of good or evil. You're bad, you're not part of us, so you're evil.
It's black and white.
It's black and white, and it's also it critical thinking
Disappears.
vanishes, absolutely vanishes.
Well, yeah, and this is happening so much in the country today with politics, and I'm an independent, and someone
I'm not.
in this room tells me that because I'm not a fan of our administration right now, that I am absolutely like a liberal socialist, or like I'm all the way out, and that is not true. I find issue with both sides, and I find good things on both sides. So
right, and I've never been a fan of socialists, partly because my dad came to this country as an immigrant, and absolutely saw what was going on in Europe, even when he saw it,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't like the freedom. He didn't like this, so he loves this country, and more conservative. But let's get honest here. Weren't you okay with Manami getting elected?
no.
Never?
Oh, not at all.
Never?
Not at all.
Okay, because now the socialists are finding out how this all works. Anyway, that's
The socialists and the Jews.
Right.
But that's a whole other story.
So anyway, we've got our own biases on things.
Yeah.
And
another way to say the aligning is confirmation bias.
Right.
They hang out with people who believe. It's like I only watch Fox News. I only watch CNN.
Right.
So there's the confirmation.
And so we're so just in terms of stories and building stories, the Story Factor by Annette Simmons is fantastic. By the way, she is very, very liberal in her politics. When she posts politics, she's very liberal on it. great story writer, beautiful writer. She's written all kinds of books, Territorial Games in Business, Story Factor. She's got, I can't remember the other book right now.
Let me see if it's
another great one.
Anyway,
so we're going to use this, and she talks about 6 stories you need to tell. Now, just to add to this some thoughts is right now Mark Zuckerberg,
yes,
Facebook, he's having to face a jury trial on the responsibility of Meta, Facebook, for being addictive by creating addictive elements for it. And supposedly 65% of all the posts there are by Autobots.
Right.
And what they do, though, is my guess is if the jury goes down this road, they're going to find him guilty. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's wrong because all products try and make it so you have to have them. They advertise, use Head and Shoulders, but if you stop using it, all the benefits will go away.
I think it's not only that. And they say it's the bright colors. It's the fact that you can highlight things that are appealing to everybody and make your life seem fantastic. And these and kids are so impressionable that they believe everything that they, if it's on the internet, it must be true.
Right. Now, if they draw a line, if the jury draws a line between Mark Zuckerberg and what he's been doing on Facebook to moral framing, I think that's going to be very difficult.
It's going to be a house of cards.
The whole thing's going to come down from all the Apple computer and their iPhone, and the way it's designed is designed to be addictive in certain ways, as is the Samsung and the Android.
And
all the
iPhones,
apps on it.
Phones, all any kind.
So and the question is are these products different than other products that you don't have in your hand and don't influence the brain in so many ways? Anyway. So rather than talk about all the harm, because what happens with moral framing is people can't have a discussion. They lose critical thinking. We've talked about that. And they really become addictive to it. And then they double down on it. So the more they say it, the more they do, the more angry they get, the more violent they get, the more the adrenaline builds up.
My way or the highway. And like I always say, you're an idiot, and this is why. At least, and I'm teasing when I say that, and it's look, you and I get into it all the time, and you insist that I'm wrong, and I I do
just
the same
like the
thing
last
to you.
podcast where we talked about sympathy and empathy.
Right, and that's right. That was fun, and. At least we can eventually come to all right, we have to agree to disagree on things, and it's not like I'm going to go after him with a giant chef's knife. I choose a serrated bread knife instead, but
a dull one, just so it hurts more going in.
But it's it's a way that we all have to be able to at least say, help me understand your point of view.
Right. And, I had noticed on our podcast, and Rona had noticed as well on the podcast, that we were talking about problems, and we weren't really, we were giving a few ideas on it. We really didn't focus on the solution side.
Yeah.
And so what we've decided for this year is to, bring up these issues and then really make sure we spend time on the solution. And so...
Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did.
I must have been sleeping. Anyway.
Oh, you just weren't listening to me.
Again. So, okay. So we have books in our hands, so we're going to talk about these.
This is Aristotle's Rhetoric, I'd be interested.
And how he does go on, yeah.
I'd be interested to find out how many high schools still require this book, whereas this is the book we had to have in our English class.
I didn't have that in my English class.
Oh, it was, you went to an East Coast school, and supposedly they're better. I went to an East Coast school, high school at least. Anyway, one of the things in chapter 1 of book 3 in the Rhetoric, he says, it's not enough to know what to say. We must also know how to say it in the right way. And the reason I picked this out is this is the key to moral framing. You can't say something that's a truth because it will not be a truth to them. It's how you go about getting them to see it differently.
Words are important.
Words are important. So, Now we're going to jump over to Don Miguel Ruiz
The Four
and
Agreements.
the Four Agreements.
I love that book.
So as a foundation, here are the things that
Look
will
how much
help
work
you.
he did on this.
Look,
Oh my God, I'm so proud of him.
look at, so be impeccable.
Even though he thinks all the wrong thoughts. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Be impeccable with your word. And we're going to talk about that one first because that's the hardest one. With moral framing, I believe, that's my thought. Being impeccable with your word. Don't take anything too personally. Again, that's another hard one when moral framing is involved. Don't make assumptions. That's the biggest.
That's the hardest, yeah.
Well, that's the most obvious thing.
Yeah.
I think, and it's hard because it's the most obvious.
Because we assume what we're saying is true,
and they don't back it up.
Right.
They don't have facts on it,
right.
Which is why any of the people going and asking some of the crazy.
Again, well, and I get this a lot from my friends who believe in the other side of the aisle. They just send me stuff, and I said, well, this is just someone else saying it. Where are the facts from? Right. And then I don't get an answer because they can't back it up.
Right. It's exactly. And then the last one is always do your best, and that's the idea. So I've had a neighbor in the area. He's more of a transient than a neighbor. Anyway, he had definitely overstayed his leave with the people that were helping him out,
yeah.
and we had I had I consider him a friend, and I had a straight heart-to-heart conversation with him, and I basically had to say, look, these are the things that you've done. These people they actually ended up lying to me about why he was leaving and going. The reason they lied to me is they were just so frustrated with that he'd overstayed, and then he turns around and then says how mean they were. It was moral framing. He constantly made himself the victim.
Well, and I want to make a point that a big part of moral framing is emotional. There's a lot more emotion that goes into it because of the stances that because it's so connected to our personal values.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the point I was going to make during our
discussion.
Did I
beat you to it? Sorry.
During the discussion, I was very conscious of practicing of keeping the emotions down, keeping the emotions down, active listening, repeating back to them, pausing before I answered, and I got to say, even though we had a decent discussion because he was, he's reasonable and fairly intelligent, I only succeeded like 35% of the time doing it the right way.
You can lead a horse to water sometimes too.
So we have to practice on this stuff, and we have to choose to practice. It has to become important to practice. And for those of you that think, you're frustrated because, it's going on, it seems to be getting worse, I think we won the battle when they stopped censoring the comedians, and it's great. And I just saw a thing on Facebook today with this gal. Oh, she can't be more. She's a teenager. She looks really young, and she's going, "Oh my God, I love watching the Winter Olympics. It's just like Jewish camp." She goes, "Everybody gets there. They all want to make friends. They're either kissing or talking about something they're doing. They all hug and cry when they leave."
That is just like Jewish camp. I went for 13 years.
She was just so funny in the delivery on
That's
it.
Great.
It was great.
That is very funny.
It was great, especially with some of the moral framing that's going on regarding, what's going on with Israel and Jews with, it's just, people, come on, we got to get over this shit.
Yeah.
And the way to do it is, so talk to them, ask them questions.
Well, that's critical thinking.
Right, and reframe what they say. And so...
Paraphrase.
Right. So pause, listen.
Understand,
reframe, rephrase, see if you're correct on that, and stay calm during this entire time. Right. That's it. And that's what you practice, working on it. And then you work on your questions, and you work on your delivery and how you do it, and you're trying not to be accusational, and you try and be more interrogative and ask.
Okay,
questions.
So that's what I'm hearing you say is that's a great way to have a conversation. Bring it back to storytelling now.
So in storytelling, the 6 stories that Annette Simmons talks about. The first one is who am I?
Who I am stories.
Who I am,
right.
and the next one is why am I here?
Right.
And then the next one is a vision story.
Right.
So all three of these would be engaged with moral framing and having a discussion with somebody who you're trying to shift off this deep confirmed bias that they've got.
Yeah.
And so you can build these stories before you talk to them about who yourself is, why you are taking the approach you are, why you're having this discussion, because you care about them, because you want to help, because you feel that there's an injustice.
The vision of how you want it to turn out.
And the vision of how you'd like to see and how you'd like the discussion, also a vision of how you'd like the discussion to go.
Okay, so what about the other three? The teaching.
Well, the other ones are teaching. You can also, if you can include some teaching, a wider perspective.
A teachable
of what's going
moment.
On. A wider perspective.
And then the values in action.
Values in action.
Now, how could that, because that could get a little touchy because your values are obviously different than theirs.
So you will focus on the values that are going to help the conversation.
Okay.
And you keep calm with values in action. So if you're there and say discussion is important, it becomes your responsibility not to be the person to blow up.
Okay.
So yes, because you're the better, you're
taking the high road.
You're taking the high road. You have more responsibility, and the world is not fair, and that's just the way it goes.
Okay. So this last one, I know what you're thinking. We never know what the other person's thinking.
Well, that gets down to persuasion and stuff. So, for example, if I was a salesperson and I give you a brochure,
okay,
and you start looking at the brochure, I go, I know what you're thinking. You think the answers to your questions are going to be in there. And they're really not. That's why we're here to discuss it. This is just backlog. Right. Now, the minute you picked it up, your brain, and I talk to you like that, your brain goes, yeah, I was looking at it, and I guess I was looking for some answers to why this applies. So
you're telling me what to think without me.
Exactly. Right. I know what you're thinking.
That's very sneaky. That's very sneaky.
It comes from cold reading. Ian Rowland and Darren Brown, those guys really brought cold reading up, and that's what fortune tellers and mystics do. They do cold reading, and it's very, very interesting on that. So anyway, we kind of went over our time on this. I wanted to keep this one shorter. Maybe we should break it into two. Part one, part two.
Well, you've been talking this whole time, so it's your fault. He yells at me for speaking for an inordinate amount of time. Poof, now it's you.
All right.
I'm morally reframing this conversation.
Do you want to continue this conversation? Do you
right
have
now?
More? Yeah, with you on it? Because what we'll do is we'll call this part one.
I'm good.
Okay. We're good. Let us know what you think. Let us know your ideas on it. Let us know if you like this or have more questions about this.
Yeah, and while you're at it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you want us to get a little bit more esoteric and things like we did today. And that's it. And I just ummed a lot. That was not good. That'll be cut and post. All right, I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
And this has been Biz-Souls. We'll see you next week.
See ya. Bye.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.